Hello, folks. It has been a little while. My name is Xander Morrison, and today I'm going to show you how I made my most recent single, What I Need, which was originally created as a part of the Cymatics Slayer beta pack contest thing. I didn't really enter with any expectations of winning that or anything. I just figured I would use it as a fun creative exercise to see how far I could get with a sample pack that was very much made for mostly like trap hip hop type stuff. And I wanted to see how far I could get by using it for a genre that it's very much not intended for, which ended up being this kind of like minimal, squelchy drum and bass thing. To start with, I got the Slayer pack at the same time as I got the Jacob Collier contact choir thing. I very quickly discovered that if you play a note in here, you can drag around like the formant on it. Can't really hear it right now because it's filtered. But you can drag around the formant and you can record yourself dragging it around to different areas and then play it back. So I thought it would be fun to just drag it in a circle as fast as I could. And then I threw just like a little filter LFO thing on it for eighth notes. And so that ended up sounding like this, you know, after being heavily filtered and stuff. And so when I was playing around with notes and stuff, I wasn't sure what key I was going to write in until I found this vocal sample, this one. I know you need space. It's space. So it's, you know, just kind of like this little airy, like I didn't love a lot of the vibrato on it. I actually dragged that into FL's new tone and repitched that so it was more flat and kind of artificial sounding. And then chopped it up a whole bunch to kind of make it fit with a note progression. So. Just a little bit of pitch bending here. I also threw manipulator on it here for just like this ending part out of the intro to kind of transition us into the build up portion. And that's automating like the stereo separation and the detuning and whatever Metanob one was doing, some formant shifting and probably like one other thing. So I had kind of that plus this this choir thing, plus this guitar loop that I think was also originally in this key. Let's listen to just that, please. That I ended up throwing through just a guitar rig preset. I saw it had a hip hop section for genres, and I was just curious as to what would be in there. I think a lot of the strength of Guitar Rig is just like looking through all the presets that are already made because those people know how to dial in guitar tones way better than I do. And then on top of that, just kind of rebalancing some of the stereo information in that, and then yeah, just filtering it pretty hard. There's a lot of filtering going on in this one. So I had this kind of half step down motion, this da da, and I wanted to make a full chord progression out of that. So the first instrument I ended up working with for that, I believe, was this. And actually, that is a simplified version of the first thing I came up with, which was this kind of I don't know. It was definitely a little busy, but when you hear it on its own, it's interesting. It's just when you layer like 6 other things on top of it, it kind of gets lost and just becomes mud. I discovered. So oh yeah, I discovered this other vocal that also paired pretty nicely with it. And you'll notice there's a lot of like really long reverb delay trails on this. This one in particular is coming from Arturia's Fragments, which is kind of like it's like a granular delay, kind of. Um, it's kind of hard to explain without doing a whole deep dive with it, but basically it can do reverb or delay or a bunch of weird glitchy stuff or like all of the above. Then I got started on drums. I wanted to use as many drums as possible from the pack, at least, you know, as many as I could with it being like necessary. I think the only drums I really had to swap out for more genre specific ones were this main snare, and this tom, and like a couple like tom layer things. Those will come in way later, but I started off with just this. And some of these drums that I've used are meant to be drums. Some of them are just like Foley layer stuff. There was also a lot of drum loops. Pretty much all of these I ended up retiming to fit the tempo because they didn't really have anything at drum and bass tempo. But so I've got this thing, which is like way sped up from what it was originally. And then while I was looking around in samples, I also found this build-up drum thing. This was like the only build-up drums that I really like felt fit what I was doing. That also does have like a kick and like sub drop attached to it, I think. If not, there's like another version of it that does that I used later. And then I started with just this pattern that I threw just a bunch of random stuff into. So there's like this guy, which immediately stood out to me because it was already in key. There's this little donk, this plonk, and so on and so forth. And so I kind of made that to pair with the drums that I had going on. So that sounds like this. And then through a couple different drum loops on top of that. So like the full percussion sounds like this. And honestly, like, if you didn't know that all of these layers were here, you would probably have a hard time even picking up like when they come in. It's one of those things that like you don't really notice it unless you're actively listening for it, but your brain still notices like a slight pickup in intensity, even if you can't place from where exactly. And then there's this kind of B drop section where I switch up the drums a little bit. Yeah, nothing too crazy. I was honestly like a pretty big fan of this little percussion sound. Let's see here. It's this one. Yeah, so originally it was meant to be kind of like a lower, like kind of tom like thing, but if you pitch it way up, it just sounds like a nice little like almost like a wood block type thing. I thought that was kind of fun. And then we'll get to the second set of drums when we get to the second section. Um, so this main bass here is so it started as they had like a few Reese's that were just like a part of the sample pack. Um and I did want to use some of that, but I wasn't really content with just like leaving it be. Threw this weird like wave shaper curve on it for distortion, threw rift on it for some more distortion, threw some erosion on it just for some more distortion. And then Maximus was here just doing some multi-band compressor stuff. And I believe this first slot here, I'll actually load it up. I took this out for once I was like done using the MIDI for this and had frozen it to audio because it's not the most efficient patch in the world, but basically the idea is it's basically what Virtual Riot was doing with like he did a tutorial not too long ago that was like in Ableton using a bunch of Ableton LFOs to move around like EQ settings and create like weird shapes. And I basically recreated that with FL Studio, but just in a much less natural way, I guess. Dang, I was kind of hoping we would get to see it move around. Basically, the idea is the frequency and height and yeah, I didn't mess with bandwidths at all. But the frequency and height of all of these different nodes moved around at random. And so I just recorded this Reese playing this pattern for like 6 minutes. And then I cut it up, took the most interesting variation of each part and kind of strung them all together. And then I just added a sub underneath. But yeah, on its own, it sounds like. Yeah, just some interesting, like squelchy type motions from that that I was pretty satisfied with. I also did. I threw it through this like lo-fi filter to give it some more crunch, and then took this basic shape from Serum and vocoded it to that, using that as the carrier to give it even more kind of bitiness to it. And then I actually had to bring down the high like quite a bit on that just to keep it under control because I had to do a lot of dynamics work to that sound and the other sound that I used that technique on, because I don't know, just peaks for the random EQ would go really high all of a sudden, and so there was a lot of fluctuation in volume, but I wanted it to be a lot more consistent, so it could be like something that you could follow. So that plus all the random stuff plus all the drums. I wanted to wait for a second to pull the drums in, just to give it kind of a second or two to settle in, to like make sure you know that that is the thing that you should be listening to once the drop happens. Not that there's like anything else near that volume, but I don't know, just like a few random smatterings of things here and there. I also have these little like I called them wub chords in here. They're basically doing the same thing as the plucky chords from earlier. It just, you know, cut up so it's not interfering with stuff that's happening in the drop, really. We've got just like some basic white noise, crash cymbal equivalent type stuff. I know, revolutionary. And then the other really interesting thing going on in here is I also threw the vocal through a couple different presets of that fragments plugin from earlier. Just so I could have like some weird glitchy like after trail type stuff. And so on and so forth. I buried it enough in the mix that it's not like obnoxious or anything, but it just adds just like a little bit of ear candy in there for you. And that's pretty much it for part A of the drop here. I actually skipped ahead. I resampled another respace and did basically the same thing as I did for this drop bass. Yeah, I think I took the plugins that I had used off of that at some point. My stuff is not labeled super well for this project. The main thing is, again, it had one of those random EQs, and it was just being run into, I believe it was Faturator I was using for distortion. And then there's just this patcher that kind of reverbs it out as it gets closer to the drop. Yeah, like that. Oh yeah, one of the last things I added to this actually was I felt like the transition into this buildup with just the manipulator thing was kind of it was missing something. So I added these little blips. And the thing I added specifically, like kind of last minute, was just kind of this little like video gamey arpeggio type thing. There's also a couple more samples down here that kind of transition into that. Anyways, off to drop B. So I bring the mini drums in from earlier. There's also this cool choir hit thing that it was originally in E minor, and I pitched it down so it would be in B minor. So it's got this really like kind of low, like almost like guttural type feeling to it. And so that on top of everything else leads us into drop B, which has completely different bass presets on it. So originally, I had just like these couple of dubstep sample type things that came with the pack without all of their effects. Actually, that one's pretty normal. Uh, yeah, originally it was like that, but I don't know, something about that felt kind of like weird to me. Like I don't know. I like putting in a little more work into my sound design than just like dropping samples in there most of the time. Especially if it's going to be something featured so prominently. Um, so I added just this Serum Effects preset full of a bunch of flangery, phasery garbage to kind of transform it. And then on top of that, I did use this preset that came from the pack. So this really deep, like plunky thing, I actually kept the original from it. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't really remember what I did to it. I'm pretty sure I used like a disperser type thing on it, just to give it a little extra, like I just used the word ploinky, but that's probably the best word for it. But I kept the original and then high passed the crap out of it, so I could keep the original timing of just the sub for it, because the way disperser works is it's like a frequency specific delay, so it delays the low end of your sound more than the high end and gives it kind of a sweeping effect. But with a genre as fast moving as drum and bass is, like your bass timing needs to be pretty on point. Otherwise, it could be like a whole 16th note or an 8th note off. And that was what was happening to me. So I just kept the bass from the original, like pre-disperser version of it. And it ended up working out pretty well. And then there's this little guy that kind of fills in the space of a lot of that. Again, another Cymatics preset. I tried to use as many like Serum presets as I could from this pack. I wasn't super happy with how a lot of them fit into this particular style, which, you know, is part of the part of the challenge. I kind of brought that upon myself. So I did have to modify some of these like quite a bit. But honestly, this one was pretty all right, just like right out of the gate. I just had to give it like these really short notes to play here. And then in the gaps between where like that little tiny percussion was playing, like the lighter drums, I just wanted to have like this really, really low, like pretty much pure sub. So that way, if you listen on something with good bass, it just absolutely kicks ass. That was kind of the idea behind it. So that was, I made a wavetable out of, well, okay. Because it doesn't label them, I don't remember what exactly I made this wavetable out of. I did this like 3 or 4 times. I know I used at least 2 different kick drums and like a Foley thing. I don't remember what is what, so you're just gonna have to take my word for it on that. But yeah, so this was originally a sample from the pack that I then processed within Serum itself and turned into a wavetable and did FM stuff too. And that kind of makes up the bulk of drop B here. And then we get into this breakdown section. So, first of all, this lead is I actually took just the like space section of the vocal and I threw it into Harmor because I learned you can actually do that. Technically, the entire thing is in there, but it only plays through the section of like the guy saying space. But yeah, you can totally just use that as like its own like you can use that as its own resampling engine, which I've been playing around with more and more. I didn't make necessarily great use out of it in this project file because I'm still trying to like learn how it works exactly. But yeah, a lot of potential here. I did try a few different things, but we'll go over what stuck and what didn't. The main thing is right now it is being buried in first of all, very heavy, just like mid-range filter, a lot of distortion, some more filter just to cut off some unwanted low end from the distortion, and then my multi-band delay patcher preset, which looks much more presentable in this form. Basically, the idea is you turn one of these knobs and it applies that change to the bands on all of these multi-bands that are run in series. And so you can get some really interesting like comb filtery results if you just mess around with the knobs a little bit, which I do during this breakdown here. In fact, I mess with, let's see here, that one and that one and that one, and also the multiplier slider and just the mix level of the patcher as a whole. And then also I like bring down the level of distortion and bring up the first filter, I think it is, while this is playing. So eventually once it gets to the end, it sounds a little more normal. The one thing I really did take advantage of like Harmor for was the pitch vibrato setting in it, just to give it some like really shaky, uncertain feeling. I also enjoy using Harmor for this because it means I can use FL's native pitch bend thing here. I've never actually had a reason to do this before, but apparently if you make your MIDI notes different colors, they will only slide to slide notes of that particular color. So I didn't want to like clone my entire Harmor setup and then run it through the same mixer channel. Instead, I just kept them both on green until I needed to use slide notes for both. And then I changed this one to a nice, lovely purple. So that way this note slides to this note and not this note. Because otherwise, if you put down two slide notes at the same time, I'm not sure how it picks one, but it only picks one to slide to for every note that is actively playing at a time. Just figured that was a kind of cool thing to mention because I've never actually had to do that before. And then I actually resampled this before I made my final version of the vocal lead here. But I was too lazy to go back and then actually like re-chop this up because I was kind of afraid I would not get the timing quite as precise for this because this leads directly into drop 2. And you get kind of this cool fake out where like it gets chopped up more and more and more. I got that idea from No Taker's remix of Saving Light by Gareth Emery and Standerwick, by the way. But yeah, so that sounds like... And then it's got just like this little tiny riser thing going on behind it. And then I wanted to give the fake out that it would just be like a halftime version of the original drop with all the like same sounds and everything. So it starts with the same bass, and then that bass gets cut for like the entire rest of the song. And instead, we jump to one of the biggest, like, ugliest things that I think I've ever made, but like it sounds so sick. I'm really happy with how this one turned out. Again, this one I'm like 90% sure was originally a kick drum because I wanted something with like strong bass fundamentals to work with. So we'll go over how this works really quick. So the thing itself sounds like this. So these different macros, they only have like one thing mapped to them, but I just am in the habit of attaching things that I want to automate to macros just in case. It's just a lot of like pretty basic sine wave FM stuff, and then doing some like pulse width modulation. I made sure the like highest that it goes on the FM amount still sounded good. And that was the highest I wanted it to go. So that way I would just have like, because if you give it the entire FM wheel to work with, like the upper range here is usually way too much and it just sounds like crap anyways. And then you have to look at your automation clip. You only have like 60% and below to work with. And so this just makes it much easier to tell like what exact values I'm looking with. Because like, see, if I did that here with whatever macro 2 is, I think that is the FM one. Then like the difference between this and this and this would be a lot visually smaller. And FL does like quantize the height of your automation points. It's not like super strict about it, but it will do it. Like if you move a point and then hit this like type in value, you can see what it's at currently. And if you do that, like if you type in like 67% or whatever, it might end up like a decimal point or two off. Like it's nothing crazy, but it's enough that I pick and choose my macro amounts pretty carefully, so I just don't have to deal with that. Anyways, this whole thing is being run through the reverb filter in Serum, going through some volume automation / distortion via the X shaper thing here. There's also this peak notch filter that's attached to this LFO and a phaser. I don't think, I didn't do anything with this static chorus thing. I basically just gave it a comb filter and then just some EQ peaks. It's nothing that crazy. The main thing that makes it work is all of the effects stacked onto it. So I have, first of all, this filter just to take down the high mid just a little bit, and also cut out some of the like really low like infra bass stuff, because FM tends to get pretty like artifacty and there's just frequencies everywhere that you don't necessarily all want to deal with, and that ended up making it sound like this cut made it sound way clearer. And then there's just a vocoder, simple like thick band, turn up the bands until it sounds nice. Like I'm not even vocoding it to anything. It's just routed to itself. And then I have everything being run through Guitar Rig on this distortion preset here. Again, I did not design that preset by any means. But it sounded cool. I knew I wanted something that sounded like crunchy, and so I was imagining like crunchy guitar, and then I was like, well, let's see if there's something that fits that bill. And then I've also got a little bit of like dry wet stuff going on here. There is actually no dry sub coming out of this. It's all going through Guitar Rig. I'm a bit conflicted on whether or not that choice worked, but I don't think it didn't work. The only issue being like when I look at the low end of this drop in like visualizer form, the like very like bottom layer of sub bass seems to be a little weak, and I'm not sure, like, I don't know. I like how it sounds. It's just visually it looks odd. But I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm working in B and that's just such a high key to begin with. It's kind of hard for me to tell. I don't write in B very often. I thought that would be another fun challenge to add on top of everything else that I'm doing. Can you tell I like to challenge myself when I make new things? But yeah, there's nothing like too crazy going on top of that. This OTT causes weird like buzzy artifacts sometimes, and I don't know what that's about. But I want to see if maybe that's just like a plugin version that I'm using, or if this is a widely known issue with the standalone version of it, because it's making me really not want to use it. And then I've got this patcher to just use the imager for it to make it less mono. Because before this, it was 100% mono. And I was like, well, that feels kind of static. And so I brought down I brought down the frequency on the splitter to like 1 point. You saw it there is 1300 hertz. And so it just stereoizes the stuff above that and none of the stuff below it. I like using Ozone's imager for stereo stuff. That's the one that has the least issues for mono compatibility for what it's worth anyways. And then I just clipped the absolute hell out of it at the end. Because a lot of these different macros that I was automating would produce different volume amounts. And so sometimes it would be a good volume and sometimes it would be too much and sometimes it would be too little. So I went ahead and just used G-Clip to very aggressively round everything out. And by round everything out, I mean square everything out, because I basically turned it into a rectangle. And then on top of all of that, there's also, this layer thing, which is doing basically the exact same thing. Again, I don't know where this wavetable came from, but it came from the pack. You're just going to have to trust me on that one. I was discovering after I threw it through Guitar Rig, it was missing just like a little bit of swooshiness that I was expecting to get out of the reverb filter. So I think I literally cloned the exact Serum instance and then just dropped a different sample in here and changed the wavetable position on basic shapes. Yeah, a lot of the settings on this are very similar, and the macros are tied to the exact same macros as here. So one automation clip affects two different things. Again, just like little optimizations that I'm picking up on the more I make music, because otherwise, like in the past, I've definitely found myself like trying to recreate automation clips point for point when I want something that's exactly the same, because I didn't even know you could do that. But yeah, this sounds like it's literally just like high, phasey, squeaky nothing, basically. That's being run through just pure noise in a vocoder to make it like extra noisy high end, and then just a reverb preset, and it just adds a nice little something on top of it. Then below all of that, I have these chords. Just to it felt a little empty with the bass being like the only thing that was going. So I really did just want originally these chords were just for this section over here afterwards. But I actually I dragged them back into this as well. This is just an AU5. I call it the not super saw. But the idea is you attach the coarse pitch of 2 different saw waves to these chaos oscillators to make them change pitch rapidly to give it the same kind of effect as unison detuning. I added unison detuning on top of that because I thought it added even a little more like thickness on top of it. If you want to see how that's made, he's got a whole video on it. And if you're interested at all in sound design and stuff, he's a great channel to watch. But yeah, that's just kind of like chilling under all of this. Honestly, like you can barely tell while the whole thing's going. It just gives it like a little bit of tonality, which I really do like. And then these halftime drums up here are literally just like straight up like trap drums, basically. I wanted to give them like a little bit of swing. Yeah, nothing too crazy there. And then I went double time with those to bring it back to kind of the drum and bass for the third repeat on this. And then I went and threw in a little backspin sound effect. I think that was from a Cashmere pack. Yeah, there it is. Just to bring it back to the halftime, and then this would be like the hardest section that this bass goes, basically. So, I mean, I think that all worked out pretty well. But then I wanted like a big melodic section to finish it off. And so I started with this sub that was basically playing like the new chord progression introduced in the breakdown. And that's this. And that is basically just being run through like a crap load of erosion. And then that erosion is being low cut so that it doesn't interfere with the actual sub part of the sub. But yeah, I just wanted to make that like as obnoxiously like I wanted it to be as bricked out as it could, and then everything else could kind of sit on top of it in that brick, so it could be just kind of a nice brick sound sandwich was the idea for it. And so that's where like the idea for these other chords came from. This Spacey Bell thing, yeah, I did use it in the intro as well. I forgot to talk about it, I guess. This is one that I added in near the end because I wasn't 100% satisfied with my instrumentation. And at the end, I was like, if I need to fill in the gaps in this project with sounds that are not from the sample pack, I'm 100% okay with that. So this is a preset that I've been using for a long time. That is actually 2 presets sandwiched together that I've been using for a long time. One of them is this ballerina preset, slightly modified in Citrus. And the other one, I believe, is just a sine wave with a bunch of reverb. Yeah, I've been using that for a long time. I think I used that preset on probably close to everything on my first album that I made. But yeah, then we bring back the plinky chords, and then the wub chords are doing pretty much the same thing. Except it accentuates some of the harmonic movement a little more. And then the halftime specific chords, those really big ones. And then the ending of this just brings in a little more tension in the chord it lands on. And then the whole thing does get filtered out with just a filter that's on not the master channel, but it's on the channel for everything that is getting sidechained, which is almost everything in the project, minus like some drums. I actually threw these couple drum fills in and didn't even label them. Specifically so I wouldn't have to go through the work of having them on a mixer channel and then having to unroute them from the sidechain channel, because by default in my project files, everything is routed here. Just because I figured it's more work to route everything there than to unroute like a few drums. So that's kind of how that ended up. And yeah, then I wasn't quite satisfied with how that ended, obviously, because we've got like this big tension thing. So I added just this big, noisy, like all out kind of cinematic drop near the end here. And that bass is... that's super noisy, being run through the sub as well. And then there's this guy, which is, I don't know, something that I've been playing around with the idea of doing more, which is basically just like setting up an FM patch to like not move and be like really static in its sound. Just like kind of this like raw, aggressive clump of harmonics, which higher up does not sound very good, but lower down is kind of interesting. I don't even have to look, but I'm going to show you anyways. That is also being run through a crap load of distortion that is being low pass to cut out the low end from the distortion, just to keep the sub range clean. And then that all kind of sits on some chords. The white noise splash cymbal thing is playing on every half note at this point, just to really hammer in those hits. And here's where I finally used those toms that I was talking about. That is all the way up here. Yeah, it's literally just like a basic, looks like a 707 tom, being layered with some cinematic stuff. But the cinematic stuff is mostly high pass to make room for the fundamentals of the toms. I'm still not very comfortable with working toms into my mixes. They never sound quite right. But I'm at least content with how this turned out. And then we end it with the Spacey Bell. There's one little edit that I made to this last bit of vocals here. So I threw that through the somehow free plugin codec. Yeah, it like emulates how digital compression affects sound in like primarily like MP3 form, which is just a cool option to have. Makes it sound kind of lo-fi, but not in like the vinyl sense. Lo-fi in like the you just downloaded like a virus from LimeWire sense, which I figured was pretty cool. Anything that I forgot? Oh yeah, this bit. There's this little break when we get into drop C here. So this little arpeggio thing is not meant to be this fast at all. It was supposed to be, it might have been this one, but I like threw it into a sampler, cut off the tail end, and just made it a little stuttery. Or I threw it into a granular synth. I honestly don't remember at this point. But yeah, so that's a super sped up ARP from the pack. And then this vocal is meant to be some kind of like hype up vocal thing. I only wanted the starting bit from that. And then I threw that through Saturn for distortion. And it's mostly filtered. You see there's a little bit of dry coming through still. Just so I didn't completely like kill all the super high end on it, I guess. I honestly don't remember why I did that. It probably doesn't make that much of a difference. Oh yeah, this is a little trick I picked up from a Dylan Tallchief video. If you add time signature changes, which you can do, I believe, by if you do add time signature change, it will shift over the like 4-bar highlighting grid to line up with whatever the most recent time signature change is. And that was nice because there's just like a little 1-bar extra tacked on to like leading into the buildup. And it kept throwing me off having everything be like 1 bar after where it's highlighted to like where it's meant to be. Those of you who have seen the other songs that I've uploaded to YouTube, you might notice it looks a little bit different. Since I have switched using video software from the Adobe Suite over to DaVinci, I needed a new way to do a visualizer for videos. And FL actually does have like a video editor type thing in it. I didn't want to do the entire thing in here because that would be a massive pain in the butt, especially with a project file this bloated. But it does have this linear option that I pretty much just like turned the bands up like all the way on, so it would just be like one solid curve basically. Smoothed some of it out and then gave it a green background so I could chroma key it into video in DaVinci Resolve. And honestly, it worked pretty well. So I'll probably keep doing that, but I just figured I wanted to mention that. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this project. Let's see how long I worked on it. If we go to project info in here, Granted, this does not count the amount of time that this has sat open in the background and I'm not doing anything, so take it with a grain of salt. But this says 86 hours and 6 minutes working on it. I'm willing to say I probably spent a solid 60 hours on this. And I used up, looks like 87 mixer channels on it, plus a couple of things that don't even have mixer channels. My project files just keep getting bigger and bigger, and eventually doing these video walkthroughs is going to be a bit more of a process. Especially once we get to some of the stuff that I've been working on that is very involved and has a lot of channels interacting with each other. So if that is something that interests you, I will be doing more of these as I release songs. And you can look forward to more of that on this channel, Look What We Made, as well as other musical and artsy stuff. I know we haven't uploaded to this channel in forever, but we have been meaning to get back around to it. And we've been keeping almost up to date on our other channel, Look What We Played, which is our side like gaming channel. Which, because that's easier to make and upload videos for, has actually surpassed our main channel. But I want to change that, dang it. So yeah, if this was interesting at all to you, might as well hit the subscribe button down below. Maybe give this video a like. And next time I release a song, you can be sure to check out this channel here, probably within a week or so, to see how I made what I made. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Xander Morrison. Goodbye.